She forgot to hang up. That's how I learned they were plotting to take my company account. All $120 million of it. And my daughter was laughing in the background. You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. I was in my den, sitting in my old leather chair, the one Margaret never liked because it creaked. My tea was getting cold on the side table when my phone rang. It was Victor. I answered, but he didn't say anything. I kept saying hello, and just when I was about to hang up I heard his voice, faint but clear enough. "She still thinks he sits sharp," he said, followed by Sarah Sipp's laugh. "Let him think that. We just need the papers signed." My hand tightened around the phone. I didn't speak, I just listened. The background chatter told me they were at my house. My house. The one I built, brick by brick. 40 years ago. Sarah was opening a bottle of wine. I heard the pop. "You realize once we declare him unstable, we take everything. The company, the account, even the rights to the name," she said. Victor chuckled. "We still say it's Sucher's early-stage cognitive decline. We already have Dr. Willis ready to testify. All we need now is one mistake from him on record." My chest went hollow. I couldn't move. My own daughter, planning to erase me like a misprinted page. They didn't want to retire me. They wanted to delete me. "But what if he fights back?" Victor asked. "He won't. He's tired. He spends his afternoons asleep in that damn chair. He's not even checking the quarterly reports anymore," she answered. They were right. I had let go of a few things lately. A few meetings missed. A few names forgotten. But I wasn't gone. Not yet. Then she said it. "He sits a liability now. No one wants a 71-year-old running a tech empire." And just like that, my silence shattered inside. My daughter, the same one who used to ride on my back across the living room floor, had labeled me a burden. I didn't hang up. I listened as long as I could, until the conversation shifted to dinner reservations and brand campaigns. Until they joked about using my own lawyer against me. That's when I ended the call, quietly, without a word. I sat there staring at the blank television screen. The silence in the room pressed into my skull like a vice. My breath was heavy. My pulse loud, but I didn't cry. Not yet. I stood up, my knees aching from years of wear, and walked over to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over the same driveway where Sarah had once played hopscotch, where Victor had first asked me for her hand. Shaking, nervous, pretending to be humble. But that was the past. This was war. I needed time, and I needed a plan. Rage wouldn't help. Tears wouldn't help. I had built an empire from dirt. I could build a defense from betrayal. The last thing I saw before closing the curtains was Victor's car parked outside. My car. He was using my Lexus now. I had given it to them last year, as a gift. And now they wanted my legacy too. I didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal, or the fact that they thought I was too blind to see it coming. But that wasn't the worst thing she did. When I asked my wife if she knew, she didn't answer. She just turned off the TV and walked away. I stood there for a long time. In the living room, remote still in my hand. The news anchor on the screen frozen mid-sentence. The silence in that room wasn't normal silence. It had weight. I followed her into the kitchen. She was rinsing something. Calm, casual. Like I hadn't just caught her hiding a body. "Margaret," I said. My voice cracked more than I wanted it to. She didn't look at me, just placed the glass on the drying rack, wiped her hands on a towel. I asked again. "Did you know?" She finally looked up. Her eyes didn't flinch. She didn't look guilty, just tired. "They are young," she said. "Let them grow." I felt something snap inside me. Not loud, just a soft tear, like the sound of old fabric pulling apart. "Grow?" I asked. "By killing me off on paper?" She leaned against the counter. "They scared, James. They don't want to wait until you die." It wasn't even what she said. It was how she said it, like she was discussing an estate plan, not a betrayal. I turned away from her, looked around the kitchen. Same cabinets I installed 20 years ago. Same counter she used to pack Sarah's school lunches on. "How long have you known?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer. I turned back. "How long have you known Margaret?" She exhaled. "I heard them talking a few weeks ago. I told them not to do anything yet." Yet, that word felt like a slap across the face. I stepped closer. "So you just stood by, said nothing?" She straightened. "What was I supposed to do? You've been tired, distant. You barely go into the office anymore." I laughed. "Once. Bitter. So that justifies stealing everything I built?" She didn't reply. I looked at her. Really looked. This woman I'd loved since I was 23. This woman who once cried when I gave her my mother's ring. Now standing here telling me without saying it that she had already let go of me. "They think I'm mentally unstable," I said. She looked down. "I heard them, Margaret, with my own ears." She picked up a cloth, wiped a spot on the counter that wasn't septant there. "They didn't mean it like that." "Didn't they?" She didn't look up. "I gave them everything," I whispered. "Everything. And you were supposed to stand beside me." "I am," she said, finally meeting my eyes. "No, you said you're not. You said you're standing behind them." She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just folded the cloth in her hands. "You have enough, James," she said. "You've done enough." And that broke me, in a way I can't explain. I left the kitchen, walked past the photo wall. Sarah's graduation, our silver anniversary, the company's first IPO plaque, all lined up like museum pieces for a legacy no one respected anymore. I went to the bedroom, closed the door, packed a small bag, a toothbrush, a spare shirt, my blood pressure pills. I didn't take much. I didn't want much. I walked past her again in the hallway. She didn't stop me. Didn't ask where I was going. Didn't even look up. That night I slept in my car. Not because they kicked me out. Because I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. I walked into my own company and the receptionist looked away. My access card had been deactivated. I was now under evaluation by my daughter. I stood there for a moment, just long enough to make her uncomfortable. Her eyes stayed fixed on her keyboard, like it would save her. I tried the scanner again. Still red, still locked out. I stepped back, took a breath. A security guard I'd never seen before walked over. "Can I help you, sir?" "Sir." "I said him James Holloway," I said. "Founder, CEO." He blinked, checked a tablet. "You said you're not cleared for entry today. You said you'll need to wait here." "Where sips, Richard?" I asked. He shrugged. "New rotation." That sits when I knew something was off. I sat in the lobby for 17 minutes. No one said a word to me. Employees passed by. Some I hired myself. Not one looked me in the eye, like I was a ghost, or worse, a problem they'd been told to avoid. At minute 18 my daughter arrived. Sarah, high heels, sharp blazer, tablet in hand. The kind of walk you learn from watching too much television. She didn't even stop. "Boardroom now." That was all she said. I followed. Past glass offices I designed. Past portraits of past successes, product launches, IPO photos, awards with my name on them. All now behind glass, like artifacts in a museum. A museum of a man who apparently no longer existed. When I walked into the boardroom I paused. Everyone was already seated. There were faces I recognized. Barely, and faces I didn't. But all of them had the same look. The look people wear when they've already made a decision before you walk into the room. I sat at the far end. My seat, the one I used for 27 years. Sarah didn't sit. She stood. Next to a man in a charcoal suit, thin, balding, holding a folder too tightly. "Let's begin," she said. I waited for her to acknowledge me. She didn't set. The man next to her cleared his throat. "Mr. Holloway, this is an emergency board review concerning your role and current capacity to fulfill executive duties. Several members of this board have expressed concerns regarding your recent behavior and decision-making." I stared at him. "Who the hell are you?" He glanced at Sarah. She answered, "This is Mr. Blaine, legal counsel. He sits helping us evaluate internal risk and succession planning." "Succession?" I asked. She didn't blink. "Yes." I turned to the rest of the room. "Is this a joke?" No one laughed. They opened the folder. Inside was a stack of papers, meeting minutes, emails, notes I didn't recognize. At the bottom, a letterhead from Dr. Willis. I looked at it. Early signs of cognitive decline. Recommended further psychological assessment. Advised temporary suspension of high-stress responsibilities. Signed. Stamped. I looked up. "You forged this." Sarah remained still. "It's a recommendation. That's all. I met with him once, for a sinus infection." She smiled. "He sits a family doctor. He sits known us for years." My jaw clenched. And yet, never once mentioned I was losing my mind. Victor spoke up then. "Dad, this isn't personal. We just want to make sure you stir okay. The company Sept's grown beyond." "Beyond what?" I snapped. "Beyond the man who built it?" Silence. I turned to the others. "Greg, how long have I known you?" Greg shifted. 23 years. "And you believe this?" I pointed to the folder. He avoided my gaze. "It's not about belief. It's about protecting the brand." Protecting the brand. My stomach turned. Sarah tapped the tablet. "We propose a temporary transition of executive authority to the board. You shall retain emeritus status. Full benefits. We tell even create a legacy office for you. Consulting, if you want." I looked at her. Really looked. This was no transition. This was exile. I stood. "And if I don't agree?" She folded her arms. "We can escalate it legally." We sat trying to avoid that. My hands were shaking now. Not from age, from rage I couldn't show. "That's it?" I asked. "You call this a meeting?" She didn't reply. "Where sips the vote?" I said louder, "Where sips protocol? Where sips decency?" Victor stood up. "Please, Dad, don't make this harder than it needs to be." I turned toward the window. Looked down at the street. People walking, unaware. Somewhere down there someone was eating lunch without knowing an empire was being stolen upstairs. When I turned back I spoke softly. "You are all making a mistake." Sarah Sips's eyes narrowed. "We consulted the law. It sets us within our rights." I smiled. "Just slightly. Maybe. But you didn't consult the right law." Confusion. I stepped toward the table, placed both hands flat on the surface. 3 months ago I signed power of attorney, transferred executive decision-making to someone outside this board, outside this building, in case of any hostile action against me. Sarah blinked. "What are you talking about?" I leaned in. "You should done your homework before trying to erase me." The room shifted, whispers, eyes darting, papers rustling. I straightened my back. "You think I didn't see this coming?" Victor stepped forward. "You your bluffing." I looked him dead in the eye. "Try me." I turned toward the door. And I walked out. Not with defeat. With calculation. Because what they didn't know was this. I already gave power of attorney to someone else. 3 months ago. His name was Daniel. Not a flashy man, not a loud man, but the kind of man who wins wars in court without ever raising his voice. I met Daniel in 1996. He helped me negotiate the first international contract that took our company global. Back then he had more hair and I had less doubt in people. Over the years we stayed in touch, not out of need, but out of quiet respect. When he sent me a card after Margaret's surgery, I remembered why I trusted him. So when my gut started whispering that something was wrong, even before the phone call, Daniel was the first man I called. We met at a small old diner on 14th Street. He ordered black coffee. I ordered the same. We didn't talk business right away. He asked about my knees. I asked about his daughter's graduation. Then I slid a sealed envelope across the table. "What SEP's this?" he asked. "My contingency plan," I said. He opened it, scanned the document, and looked up. "You sutter giving me power of attorney?" "Effective immediately," I said. "In case anything happens. In case someone tries something." He didn't ask who. He didn't need to. He knew my family. He'd seen the shifts, the absence at meetings, the change in signatures, the way Sarah had stopped inviting me to investor calls. He nodded. "I subtle keep it safe." "What else?" I leaned in. "I need you to start watching them." He blinked. "Define watching." "Discreetly. I want activity logs, company changes, property transfers, account access, any odd movements." He sat back, folded his hands. "You think they sit planning something?" I looked out the window. "No. I know they are. I just don't sit know how far they sit'n'll go." Daniel didn't set flinch. He just said, "Then we sell prepare accordingly." Over the next few weeks, Daniel operated like a surgeon, quiet, clean, effective. He traced Victor's financial records, found irregularities, expensive transfers, property leases under shell names. He reviewed Sarah's legal activity. Turns out she'd consulted 2 separate firms about restructuring executive powers and hired a private psychiatrist for an elder care assessment, using company funds. Then came the call, the one they forgot to end. Daniel helped me record it, store it, and legally timestamp it. Every word Sarah spoke, every laugh, every insult, all cataloged, with backup copies and encrypted drives. We didn't confront them. Not yet. We wanted more. Daniel placed silent alerts on internal systems. Every time Sarah or Victor touched something they weren't supposed to, we knew. They tried updating the board's bylaws. We intercepted the draft. They attempted to switch legal advisors. Daniel sent a quiet cease and desist citing conflict of interest, and the firm backed off immediately. Then came the day Sarah tried to access the master account. The $120 million reserve. My reserve. Daniel had already anticipated it. The account triggered an auto-lock. An email was sent. Not to her. To me, and to Daniel. Subject line: unauthorized attempt detected. Action logged. We didn't set reply. We didn't set panic. We just took notes. Every document they forged. Every signature they misused. Every whisper they tried to keep private. Daniel traced it, backed it up, and filed it under in case of war. And still, I didn't show my hand. Because Daniel taught me something I had forgotten. He said, "You don't win by reacting. You win by preparing so thoroughly, they trip over their own confidence." That became our mantra. So I kept going to meetings, smiled during dinners, let them believe they were winning. Until the day the email arrived. It was forwarded from an intern. A company-wide policy update, drafted by Victor, subject emergency transfer of executive power, pre-approval summary. Victor had forgotten to delete the metadata. Daniel found it. The document was created 2 weeks before the board meeting, meaning they had planned my evaluation before the incident they claimed triggered concern. In legal terms, it was premeditation. In emotional terms, it was betrayal written in bold font. Daniel called me that night. "It sits done," he said. I didn't speak. "We spiv got everything. We setra ready." I stood in my garage, staring at the car they now used like their own. The smell of Victor's cologne still on the seat. The sound of Sarah's voice still fresh in my mind. I said, "Let them play one more move." Daniel hesitated. "James?" "Trust me," I said. "Let them feel safe." Because I knew what was coming next. And then came the email, the one that sealed their fate. Victor was laughing when he read the old will. He didn't know I had burned that copy years ago. He stood in the lounge with a whiskey glass in one hand and a printed copy in the other, reading it out loud to Sarah like they already won the lottery. Full estate to Sarah Holloway and any direct descendants, he mocked, grinning. "See, it's sealed. Signed. Deeded. I didn't say a word. Let them feel victorious. Let them dance in a room I paid for, under lights I installed, around people I once trusted. They even threw a small party that weekend. Not an official one, a private little celebration, just close friends, some wine, a few toasts. They called it a pre-transition dinner. I wasn't invited, of course. Margaret didn't go either, but she didn't stop it. They thought they had outmaneuvered me, that I'd fade into the background quietly and they'd step in, young, brilliant, progressive, with my name on the masthead and their hands in the account. What they didn't know was that I had rewritten the will. Not once. 3 times. Each time more refined, more airtight. The final version was signed in Daniel's office in front of 2 witnesses, all of whom had nothing to gain. Not family. Not employees. Just people who believed in legal structure and quiet justice. I had disinherited Sarah. I had frozen all joint assets. I had created a living trust. And that trust? It only activates under one condition, that I am medically confirmed as mentally sound and still alive. You see, they planned for my death. I planned for their greed. Daniel had secured everything. Accounts moved under trust protection. Company shares locked behind layers they couldn't legally touch without triggering lawsuits. Real estate, held, but inaccessible. Investment portfolios moved offshore under executor clauses. Every move they made, every assumption they celebrated was built on a version of the will that no longer existed. Victor tried to access the $120 million corporate reserve that Monday morning. Sarah stood beside him in the study, smiling, ready to see their account dashboard light up. But instead, he got a pop-up. Account frozen by trustee order, under review. They thought it was a glitch. Victor refreshed the screen. Again. And again. Then he called the bank. They asked for my trustee code. He didn't have it. They asked if he was Daniel Holloway. He wasn't said. They asked if he was listed on the active power of attorney file. He wasn't said. They hung up. Victor stormed into the hallway, his voice echoing off the marble. "Where the hell is the money?" Sarah looked pale. She knew. She didn't say it yet, but her silence told the story. I was still in control. And every day they waited to transition me out, the more the walls closed in, because now, every move they made would be watched. Every document signed would be double-checked. Every dollar moved would need authorization. Mine. The best part? I didn't need to scream. Didn't need to threaten. I just had to wait. Quietly. Precisely. They underestimated silence. And silence was my greatest weapon. I walked into the courtroom with a cane and a USB drive. She walked in with a $5,000 purse and a smirk. Only one of us walked out with dignity. The hallway smelled like old wood and cold air. Every footstep echoed more than it needed to. Daniel walked beside me, calm as always. I tightened my grip on the cane. Not because I needed it, but because I knew they expected me to. "Ready?" Daniel asked. I nodded once. Let them speak first. We entered the courtroom. Sarah was already seated, dressed like she was attending a gala. Victor sat next to her, checking his phone. Their lawyers, young, sharp suits, too much confidence, were huddled together like a football team before kickoff. The judge entered. An older man, gray eyebrows, sharp eyes. The kind who'd seen 1,000 lies before lunch. Sarah Sipps's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we are here today to request temporary removal of Mr. James Holloway from all corporate and financial positions due to mental decline, erratic behavior, and potential risk to the company's subsidiaries. I didn't flinch. He continued. We have submitted medical statements, employee concerns, and instances of memory lapses that demonstrate Mr. Holloway may no longer be capable of responsibly managing high-level decisions. The judge turned to me. Mr. Holloway, how do you respond to these claims? I looked straight at Sarah. Her smile barely moved. I tapped Daniel's briefcase. He handed me the USB. With respect, Your Honor, I said. I said like to submit a different kind of evidence. The bailiff brought the USB to the bench. The judge plugged it into the monitor. A video began. Sarah Sipps's voice filled the courtroom. If we push the dementia angle and get Dr. Willis to back it, we can take full control. He said he'll be too confused to fight it. Then Victor Sebda's voice. And if he challenges it? Sarah laughed. He won set. He still thinks we love him. I didn't look at her. I just watched the judge. He paused the video. Looked up slowly. Is this your voice, Miss Holloway? Silence. Then Sarah said, that recording is out of context. Daniel stood. We also have timestamps, phone logs, and confirmation from the phone provider that the call occurred. Additionally, Mr. Holloway passed a full cognitive assessment 2 weeks ago, administered by 2 state-approved professionals. He handed over 2 sealed envelopes. The judge flipped through them. His face changed. Not shocked, disgusted. Sarah Sipps's lawyer tried to recover. We still believe that... The judge raised his hand. Do you believe your client Sipps's voice was fabricated? No, but... Then sit down. Dead silence. I could hear Victor's foot tapping under the table. The judge leaned back. You brought a case to remove a man from his own company based on fabricated concerns, forged perception, and deliberate manipulation, all while knowing he was mentally sound. He turned to Sarah. You said you just wanted what Sipps's eventually yours. Is that correct? Sarah shifted. I didn't mean. That's what you said on the recording. She nodded, barely. The judge looked at her like she was dirt on his bench. Greed dressed in blood, he muttered. Victor looked like he wanted to disappear. The judge turned to the clerk. Motion denied. This case is dismissed with prejudice. Sarah Sipps's mouth opened. No words came out. But he wasn't done. I'm also ordering an independent audit of all financial transactions conducted by Miss Holloway and Mr. Victor Trent within the past 18 months. Effective immediately, I am freezing all assets, accounts, and trusts registered under either of their names until further notice. Gasps from the gallery. Victor stood up. You can do that. I can, the judge said without raising his voice, and I just did. Sarah looked at me then. For the first time, really looked. Her eyes weren't filled with anger. They were filled with fear. Because she knew it was over. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. I just stood, took my cane, and walked out. Behind me, a storm was beginning. But in front of me, the air had never felt clearer. The judge didn't just dismiss the case. He ordered an audit and froze every single asset in Sarah's name. He called me Dad for the first time in years. He was crying on his knees. It was too late. It had been 17 days since the courtroom hearing. 17 days since the audit froze every card, every account, every trust in Sarah and Victor's names. 17 days since they tasted what I had tasted, being locked out of your own life. Their housekeepers stopped showing up by the end of week 1. By week 2, the cars disappeared from the driveway. Leased, repossessed. The luxury they'd drowned themselves in had always floated on the illusion of control, and illusions collapse fast when money gets cold. I heard from Daniel that the private school had sent a withdrawal notice. No fees. No trust payments. No Holloway exception. Just paperwork. The media didn't take long to catch wind. Articles titled, "The Fall of the Holloway Heiress" began circulating. Old photos resurfaced. Ones I hadn't seen in decades. Ones where Sarah still held my hand like it meant something. But the driveway moment didn't come with news cameras. It came with a knock. I opened the door just past 9 p.m., porch light casting long shadows across the concrete. It was quiet, cold, and there he was. Victor. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His jacket was wrinkled, his shoes muddy. His voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "Please, can we talk?" I said nothing. He stepped forward. "I know I don't deserve anything. I know what we did was wrong." Still, I stood there. He lowered his eyes. "We were scared, okay? We thought you were slipping away. That Sarah would get nothing after everything she gave." I narrowed my eyes. Everything she gave or everything she expected? He didn't answer that. Couldn't set. Instead, he fell to his knees. Right there, in the hallway. The same hallway he once strutted through like he owned it. I messed up. I should stopped her. I should said something. "We didn't think you fight back." That was the truth. They never expected me to fight back. Because they thought age meant weakness. They thought silence meant surrender. But what they feared the most was that I might still be in control. He wiped his eyes. We lost everything. My business partners pulled out. Sarah can even access her phone without getting a fraud alert. We set her drowning. I said quietly, "You tried to drown me first." "I know," he whispered. "I know." A long pause. Then he said something I still never forget. "I used to think you were cold, too calculated, too distant. But now, I see it. I see why you built things the way you did, why you planned, why you protected." He looked up at me again. "You protected this family even from itself." And for a brief moment, I saw the young man he used to be. Nervous, grateful, standing in my kitchen all those years ago asking if he could marry my daughter. But time doesn't rewind. It just records. And his part in that recording was already finished. I didn't yell, didn't argue, just said, "You should go." His eyes filled again. "Please, just tell her you forgive her. She sits not well. She cries every night." I looked out past him into the street. Empty. "I said I'm not here to punish her," I said. "I said I'm just not here to protect her anymore." He nodded slowly. Defeated. He stood, turned, walked back toward the car. My old car parked at an awkward angle in front of my gate. Just before he opened the door, he turned back and said, "Thank you for not destroying us." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because sometimes the loudest justice is quiet survival. I walked back inside. Not with pride, but with peace. I didn't ask for an apology. But the media did. And she broke down on national TV. It started with a blog post. Some niche outlet picked up the court records and published a story titled, "Billionaire Betrayed by Blood." No clickbait, no exaggeration, just facts. From there, it spread like wildfire. Local radio, business forums, evening news. By the third day, it hit prime time. They ran with it like they been waiting for it. Old man outsmarted by his own daughter. Millions frozen. A courtroom twist. No one expected. Every channel framed it differently, but the core remained the same. Greed had worn a familiar face. Sarah Sip's face. I didn't give interviews. I ignored requests. Daniel handled everything. I just sat in my living room watching the world finally see what I had quietly endured. But then came the invitation. Not for me. For her. A morning show. National broadcast. Live audience. Panel of hosts pretending to care. And she said yes? I didn't expect her to. But she did. The segment was called Family, Fortune, and Forgiveness. I still remember the way the host introduced her. Sarah Holloway, daughter of tech mogul James Holloway, speaks out for the first time since the court scandal shocked the nation. She walked onto the stage in a navy blouse, minimal makeup, her hair pulled back like she was trying to look smaller, quieter, harmless. The first few questions were gentle, scripted. "How are you feeling?" she said. "Broken." "What happened, in your words?" She said, "I made a mistake. I let fear take over. I was scared my father would leave me behind, that I have no say in something I helped build." Helped build. That word stuck. But I kept watching. Then the host asked her about the recording. The one we played in court. The room fell quiet. She hesitated. Her eyes shifted. Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I didn't think he hear it. I was venting. I didn't think we actually." She stopped mid-sentence. And then, the tears came. Live. Real or rehearsed, I still don't know. "I love my father," she said. "I really do. I just felt pressured, misguided. I thought he already given up. I thought he was done." The audience was silent. Some people looked away. And in that moment, she folded. Not dramatically, not loudly, just quietly, like a house caving inward from years of rot. The host handed her a tissue. Asked if she'd spoken to me since. She shook her head. "Do you want to?" She nodded. "If he sits watching, what would you say?" She looked into the camera. And whispered, "I I'm sorry, Dad. I wish I could take it all back." The screen blurred for a second, my glasses fogged up. I took them off, wiped them slowly, then turned the TV off. Not because I couldn't bear to hear more. Because I didn't need to. I didn't hate her. I didn't even feel anger. I just felt tired. Because that kind of apology only comes when the world is watching. When the stage is set. When the consequences are public, and the shame is televised. It's not that her words were not true. It's that they weren't mine to believe anymore. She apologized to a lens, not to a father. To the country, not to the man she betrayed. I didn't respond. Didn't send a message. Didn't pick up the phone. Some stories end with closure. Others end with a door that stays closed. And mine ended with a broadcast. Because that was the last time I saw her face. I turned 72 that year. My birthday gift to myself? A new heir. Someone who actually earned it. I didn't throw a party. Didn't light candles. I sat on the porch with black coffee and a stack of documents Daniel dropped off that morning. The final version of the new estate plan. Clean, sharp, irrevocable. Not written out of anger. Written out of clarity. For too long I assumed legacy was about blood. That DNA came with discipline. That the same last name meant the same values. I was wrong. The first change I made was simple. I removed Sarah. Not as punishment, but as prevention. Then I made a list. People who stayed silent when they could sold me out. Employees who stuck with me when the headlines turned. The old driver who kept my schedule private when Victor tried to bribe him. My secretary who walked away from Sarah Sip's offer for a better position. And then, Rachel. She was 26 when she joined, nervous, smart, painfully organized. Sarah mocked her once, called her a glorified intern with no sense of style. I remember Rachel came to me after that. She asked if she should resign. I told her, if they mock you, you're already ahead. She stayed. And now? She runs the company. Quietly, firmly, without ego. She doesn't pose for Forbes, doesn't post inspirational quotes online. She just works. She listens. She protects what I built, because she knows what it cost. I gave her 40% control, not because she asked, because she proved. I also signed off assets to 3 charities, one for Alzheimer's research, one for veterans, and one for single mothers starting small businesses. People Sarah once said weren't set brand aligned. I didn't respond then. I just remembered. I gave Rachel my old watch. The gold one. Margaret gifted me on our 25th anniversary. She hesitated at first. "This is too much," she said. "No," I replied. "Too much is thinking blood entitles someone to everything." She didn't have an answer, but her eyes said thank you. I started downsizing after that. Sold the second house, donated half my art, cleared the storage unit Sarah never even knew existed, gave the piano to a local church. The keys had dust on them anyway. I stopped attending board dinners, stopped showing up at press conferences. When people asked where I was, Rachel told them, exactly where he wants to be. And she was right. No headlines, no handshakes. Just peace. I spend my mornings in the garden now. My knees complain, but the quiet helps. There sips a robin that shows up near 6:30 a.m. every day. I named him Victor. He flinches when I move too fast. Fitting, really? Daniel visits every other Sunday. We play chess, talk less about strategy now and more about breath, time, perspective. "You ever regret not cutting them off earlier?" he asked once. I shook my head. "No, you don't sit block the door before you know who sips inside." He smiled at that. Margaret and we don't speak much. Not because we're at war, just, there's nothing left to fight over. She lives with her sister now, says she sleeps better there. Maybe that's true. Maybe silence is the only language we both still understand. I never answered Sarah's televised apology. Never called, never wrote. She sent a letter once. Handwritten, said she'd changed. Said she was in therapy, said she wished she'd seen what I see now. I read it. Then I put it back in the envelope and filed it away. Because some things don't need responses. And on the door of my office I framed the Judge Sipp's words, "Entitlement is not inheritance." People ask if I miss her. I don't sit. I miss the version of her that used to hold my hand when she was 6. The one who used to draw stars on my meeting notes with crayon, the one who used to fall asleep on my chest while I reviewed sales reports, the one who used to tell people, "My daddy builds empires." That version, she doesn't exist anymore. And Sepp stopped trying to resurrect her. It took me longer than I'd like to admit. Longer to stop defending her in my own mind. Longer to accept that love can expire quietly, not in one big moment, but in slow erosion, word by word, choice by choice. The betrayal didn't kill me. The realization that she meant it did. People think revenge gives closure. It doesn't. The courtroom, the freezing of accounts, the televised breakdown, none of it filled the hole, because justice doesn't fill grief. It just replaces the noise. The only thing that brought peace was distance. I stopped walking past the family portraits, took them down one by one. Not with rage, with intention. I placed them in a box marked before. It's still in the attic. I haven't opened it. I kept one photo though. Sarah on her 7th birthday, chocolate cake all over her face, missing a front tooth, laughing like the world couldn't touch her. That one stays in my drawer. Not for sentiment, for truth. Because I need to remember who she was, before I forget who she became. I still get birthday cards. Not from her. From old friends, colleagues, even Rachel. They always say the same thing. "You look peaceful." And I am not happy, not bitter, just still. Margaret wrote once, a short letter, said she's living quietly now. Gardening, reading, said she hopes I'm finding rest. She didn't said to mention Sarah. I didn't write back. Not out of anger. Out of stillness. There are days I still hear Sarah's voice in my head, the courtroom tapes, the apology on TV, the laughter from that phone call she didn't mean for me to hear. But more than the words, it's the tone that lingers. The casual cruelty. The entitlement disguised as concern. The way she said he's a liability, like I was a bad stock investment, not a man who gave her his last name. I tried to understand. I really did. I reread our old messages, watched home videos, searched for signs, for warnings, for cracks in the wall. But sometimes, the cracks are behind the paint. And by the time they show, it's already too late. Closure didn't come with a dramatic ending. It came one morning when I brewed coffee and realized I hadn't thought about her for 3 whole days. It came when I saw her name on a news ticker and didn't feel my chest tighten. It came when I stopped wondering why, and started accepting because she chose herself, because she believed I was in her way, because not everyone with your blood bleeds for you. And Icep's made peace with that. Rachel visits every Friday, brings new updates, brings calm energy. Sometimes she brings her little brother, just 13. Bright, curious, kind. He asked me once, "Do you have kids?" I said, "I had a daughter once." He nodded like he understood. And maybe he did. I'm not lonely. I'm not bitter. I just live in my chapter. One where silence holds more meaning than noise. One where apologies don't carry conditions. One where love, when it's true, doesn't demand payment in power or proof. I still walk by the piano sometimes. It's quiet now, untouched. Sarah used to play it, poorly, but with heart. She once asked me if I'd sell it when we moved. I told her, "You don't sell your memories." But now I realize, you don't keep them either. You just respect them. Then let them go. I don't Nesbit wish her harm. I just don't want to carry her memory like a wound anymore. Because some betrayals don't need answers. They need silence. And silence is what I've finally earned. If you liked this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.